At 75, the man who once defined Hollywood charm is facing a chapter no one expected. Richard Gere built a legacy on romance, grace, and quiet strength. But behind the public image lies a story far more complicated. As time reshapes both career and personal life, unexpected struggles have cast a shadow over his golden years. And for fans who grew up watching him on screen, the reality of his latest chapter feels almost too heartbreaking to accept. Before becoming a Hollywood icon, Richard Gere quietly carried emotional burdens that shaped the foundation of his inner life. Growing up in a modest household in upstate New York, he was often described as thoughtful and introspective. But beneath that calm exterior lingered a sense of isolation. As a teenager, Gere struggled with feelings of alienation, a persistent sensation that he was somehow separate from the world around him. While he excelled academically and showed talent in music and performance, success did little to quiet the internal tension he felt. Entering young adulthood and pursuing acting only intensified this emotional complexity. The competitive nature of the theater world combined with the uncertainty of artistic ambition deepened his sense of disconnection. Gere would later reflect that during these formative years he experienced a profound psychological loneliness, not simply being alone, but feeling misunderstood and spiritually adrift. He has spoken about an inner agitation that followed him, a restless search for meaning that fame alone could never satisfy. Rather than breaking him, however, this early suffering became transformative. The discomfort pushed him inward, prompting deep self-reflection and eventually guiding him towards spiritual exploration. In his 20s, Gere began studying meditation and later embraced Tibetan Buddhism, finding in its teachings a framework to understand suffering and compassion. He developed a close relationship with the Dalai Lama, whose philosophy profoundly influenced his worldview. When Richard Gere married supermodel Cindy Crawford in December 1991, their union instantly became one of Hollywood's most photographed relationships. He was an established leading man known for films like Pretty Woman, while she was at the height of her modeling superstardom. The pairing of a celebrated actor and one of the world's most recognizable faces fascinated the media, placing their romance under relentless public scrutiny from the very beginning. Despite the glamour surrounding them, the marriage faced quiet strains behind closed doors. The couple's 17-year age difference was frequently highlighted in tabloids, and both were navigating demanding globe-spanning careers. Gere was deeply immersed in his film work and spiritual pursuits, while Crawford's modeling commitments required constant travel. The pressures of fame, compounded by invasive rumors and speculative headlines, created an atmosphere that made privacy nearly impossible. By 1995, after less than 4 years of marriage, they finalized their divorce. No children were born from the union, but the emotional weight of the separation was significant for Gere. It marked one of the first major public turning points in his personal life. The dissolution of such a high-profile marriage invited intense media commentary, forcing him to confront heartbreak under the glare of global attention. After finding love again with actress and former model Carrie Lell, Richard Gere appeared to have built a more grounded and private family life. The couple married in 2002 after welcoming their son Homer James Gere in 2000. 4 years, they maintained a relatively low profile compared to Gere's previous high-visibility relationship, focusing on raising their child away from constant tabloid spectacle. However, beneath that quieter exterior, strains gradually emerged. By September 2013, news broke that the couple had separated. Reports at the time suggested differences in lifestyle and personality. Gere, known for his contemplative, spiritually oriented approach to life, and Lell described as more socially inclined. While neither publicly detailed the private fractures, it became clear that reconciliation was unlikely. What followed was not a swift resolution, but a prolonged and emotionally taxing legal battle. Their divorce proceedings stretched nearly 3 years, finally concluding in October 2016. The drawn-out process reportedly involved complex negotiations over significant assets, including real estate holdings, as well as arrangements concerning their son. Though the specifics remained largely confidential, the extended timeline underscored how difficult and intricate the separation had become. In July 2016, Richard Gere experienced a deeply personal loss when his mother, Doris T. Gere passed away at the age of 91. Though she had lived a long and full life, her death marked the quiet closing of a foundational chapter in his world. The loss of a parent whose influence had shaped his character long before fame ever entered the picture. Doris was known as a devoted mother and a steady presence within the Gere household. Raised in a modest, disciplined family environment in upstate New York, Richard often credited his parents with instilling in him values of humility, hard work, and compassion. His mother, in particular, embodied patience and emotional steadiness, qualities that would later echo in his spiritual pursuits and humanitarian commitments. While Gere has generally kept his private grief away from headlines, he has spoken over the years about how profoundly his parents influenced his moral compass. The empathy he demonstrates in both his activism and his choice of emotionally layered roles can be traced back to the nurturing atmosphere of his childhood. Losing his mother, therefore, was not simply the passing of a loved one. It represented the end of a lifelong bond stretching back to his earliest memories. Her death came during a turbulent period in his life as he was finalizing a lengthy divorce. In that context, the loss carried additional emotional weight. The comfort of maternal reassurance, a constant for decades, was suddenly gone. Even at 91, her presence symbolized continuity, family history, and unconditional love. Also in 2004, Richard Gere experienced a frightening reminder of how quickly an ordinary moment can turn dangerous. An avid outdoorsman who has long enjoyed horseback riding for both recreation and reflection, Gere was riding alone when his horse suddenly became distressed and threw him violently to the ground. The fall was abrupt and forceful, leaving him injured and momentarily stunned. Although he avoided life-threatening trauma, the impact resulted in a broken hand. The injury itself was painful enough, but what made the situation more precarious was his isolation. Riding alone without a phone, Gere had no immediate way to call for help. Forced to gather himself despite the shock and pain, he had to walk back on his own, an experience that reportedly underscored both his vulnerability and resilience. The accident temporarily sidelined him and required medical attention and recovery time. While it did not derail any major long-term projects, it served as a stark interruption to his routine and a reminder of the physical risks tied to his personal passions. Gere has often embraced activities that offer solitude and connection with nature, aligning with his contemplative lifestyle and spiritual practices. Yet this incident revealed the unpredictable side of those pursuits. Horses, while majestic and generally well-trained, remain powerful animals capable of sudden reactions. The accident was a sobering example of how quickly control can be lost. Non-stopping there, in April 2007, Richard Gere became the center of an unexpected international controversy while attending an AIDS awareness event in India. The public program aimed at promoting safe sex and reducing stigma surrounding HIV prevention featured Gere alongside prominent Bollywood actress Shilpa Shetty during an energetic on-stage moment intended to emphasize enthusiasm for the cause. Gere hugged Shetty and playfully kissed her on the cheek several times. While the gesture was meant as light-hearted support for a serious health campaign, images of the interaction spread rapidly through Indian media. Some conservative groups reacted with outrage, arguing that the display was inappropriate for a public setting. Protests erupted in several cities, and legal complaints were filed alleging violation of public obscenity laws. In the weeks that followed, lower courts in India issued arrest warrants against both Gere and Shetty. The situation quickly escalated beyond a simple cultural misunderstanding. Effigies of Gere were burned in demonstrations, and calls for accountability intensified. Supporters, however, defended the event's purpose, stressing that the interaction had been consensual and occurred within the context of an AIDS awareness initiative, not as an act intended to offend. Shetty herself publicly downplayed the incident, expressing surprise at the backlash. Over time, higher Indian courts intervened. The warrants were stayed, and in subsequent legal proceedings the obscenity charge was dismissed, bringing the matter to a formal close. Gere did not return to India to face arrest, and the controversy gradually subsided. In February 2023, Richard Gere faced a significant health scare while vacationing with his family in Mexico. What began as what appeared to be a routine respiratory illness quickly escalated into pneumonia, a condition that can be particularly serious for individuals in their 70s. At 73 years old at the time, Gere required hospitalization for monitoring and treatment, prompting concern among fans worldwide when news of his condition became public. Reports indicated that the illness was not isolated to him alone. Members of his family were also experiencing symptoms during the trip. However, Gere's case required the most intensive medical attention. Pneumonia, an infection that inflames the air sacs in one or both lungs, can lead to breathing difficulties, high fever, fatigue, and dangerous complications if not treated promptly. In older adults, the risks are heightened due to potentially weakened immune response and the possibility of secondary complications. He reportedly remained under medical care for several days, receiving appropriate treatment before being discharged to continue recovery. While his representatives later confirmed that he was on the mend, the episode served as a stark reminder of how quickly health circumstances can shift. Even for someone known for maintaining a disciplined lifestyle centered on meditation, yoga, and mindful living, the hospitalization was widely covered by international media, reflecting the enduring public interest in his well-being. For Gere, who has balanced film work with humanitarian activism and family life in recent years, the illness underscored the importance of rest and vigilance regarding health as he moves further into his 70s.